As soon as they got back, Nale took care of the buckets and disappeared with them, leaving Edath and Lael alone.
You probably already understood, but we have a bounty in our head.
Edath pointed out while folding her arms upon her chest. She looked around while she was talking. Lael noticed she seemed to be uncomfortable being alone with him.
Maybe because of what happened earlier.
We always had, but we need to be more careful now.
All right.
He wasn't sure what he should say. She could be quite intimidating. Edath looked at him directly.
I'm surprised you haven't lied to us since we've met.
Why would I lie?
Well, everyone does. At least everyone I've met. Especially from your country.
She walked towards a bench near the house and sat. Lael sat next to her.
You've mentioned things about my country a couple of times. How many times have you been there?
A few, when I was younger. We could manage to go there sometimes. We usually went on a boat trip that usually took 1 day until we got there. They liked to go there many times, and I can't say I blame them. It's much more peaceful than here.
She paused and looked at him. Lael was wondering if she was talking about her parents or Nale and Simon.
I envied you. I still do. I used to hear plenty of people from there complaining about their shitty lives. Oh my gosh, my boyfriend broke up with me. Oh, I had to spend so many hours studying, so I couldn't go to the party. Oh my gosh, you will not believe what happened at the mall yesterday. Stacey was just like, what? And I was just like, huh? And damn, my parents are such a pain. I want to move out. My life sucks. I want to die. They are so futile and so shallow. Complaining and complaining and complaining because of work, politics, or so. There's no justice.
We are unworthy and ungrateful. I can understand that now.
Lael wasn't the type of guy who'd complain much, and he usually appreciated what he had.
You should. It's not like I'm putting all of your society's principles on your back. It's not your fault.
Yeah. So, you used to go with your parents to my country, was it?
Nah, with Nale and Simon.
But I believe it would be illegal for you to go there with no ID.
Very well, Mr. Cop, but it's not like we didn't have IDs.
Huh?
We've obtained them, jeez. Before you say anything, I'm well aware I broke a few rules in your country, but hey, give me a break.
It's not like I can do anything here anyway. So I am in no place to judge.
I liked it there. Although I couldn't afford to just move there and leave everything as it is here, you see? Besides, I didn't fit much in that society as I didn't grow up there. I'd probably go to jail fast. Oh, and by the way, don't worry. It's not like everyone can go to your country. The guys that were sent here are still here, alive. At least some of them.
Edath was referring to the prisoners.
Are you planning to kill people in order to fulfill your aim?
Edath stood in silence for a brief moment, and then smirked.
Yes, of course. We've discussed that. Only the ones who can't be fixed shall be punished.
What do you mean by that?
Lael was strongly against killing people.
Taking other people's lives? Playing God? It isn't right. Nobody gets to decide if another person should die. No, that's wrong. Even if we're speaking about bad people, as many label them.
Lael clenched his fist.
Psychopaths, for example, or other people who might represent a threat to our lives are the ones I'm talking about. People like that can't be fixed and won't be fixed. We can't just exile them to someplace else, like your fellow bosses did.
But what you're doing is neither right nor fair nonetheless.
Edath tilted her head. She had a tired expression that screamed, "Here we go again."
Do you have any other option?
I don't know. Get them in something like a jail or something.
Edath started to laugh, which made Lael stop talking.
And you're telling me that what I'm doing isn't right nor fair?
She stood up and looked at him.
You're even worse than me. You're saying that people should slowly rot in jail, seeing their lives getting wasted unnecessarily. At least I'll give them a quick end to their miserable lives. I'm being nice in the end. It's not like I enjoy torture, so
They deserve it.
Edath opened her eyes widely for a second. The Lael she had in front of her was a different Lael from seconds before. His aura had darkened, and his eyes seemed empty. She straightened her back, as his expression returned to normal as quickly as it had changed.
You're quite peculiar, you know that? You kind of resemble someone I knew.
Edath commented, looking with narrowed eyes towards Lael, who wore a surprised expression at this point.
It's the second time she said that.
Anyway, we take turns at night. But since it will be your first night here, you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to try to find something for us to eat. Make sure you rest now.
Lael nodded as she walked away.
Seems that we're lucky today.
Simon made a large half smile and rubbed his hands as he saw Edath dragging a dead deer with a rope.
Yeah, we have dinner and lunch thanks to moi.
Right. Don't get too cocky. I could catch two if I wanted to.
He helped her drag the deer towards an improvised grill, obviously created by Simon. Nale was lying on the bench, smiling at them.
That guy never helps. It's amazing.
He only helps when he wants, like his cousin Simon.
Nale pointed to them, then lowered his right hand onto his left hand, pointing his right thumb upwards.
Do you need help?
Yes, we do. Could you bring your ass here?
Edath replied, dropping the deer and cleaning the sweat off her forehead. Nale answered, shaking his head and pointing to himself, and with his hand shaped in a C, he moved it from his chest to his stomach.
I'm hungry.
Edath rolled her eyes.
Right, so am I. You always do this. Why do I still try?
Edath smiled as Nale smiled genuinely. He always used to mock them by offering help and end up doing nothing in the end. Edath never realized why he thought that was so amusing, but she ended up blaming his childishness, despite his being just 2 years younger than her. She looked at Simon.
Is Lael resting?
Yeah. At least when I looked at him, he was snoring softly.
I see.
She nodded, while removing the fur out of the deer and cutting it in pieces. Simon tilted his head.
What kind of reaction is that?
Simon asked, helping Edath cutting it. Nale was also snoring in the background. Simon shook his head, but decided to ignore him for now.
You know, it's pretty unusual for you to be quiet.
Simon noticed as he stood up and prepared the grill. That improvised grill was created in order to produce less smoke, preventing unwanted people from the center to happen upon them.
I know.
She made a face while some blood splattered onto her clothes and skin.
It's interesting, as when we first met him, I had the idea I could understand how he was, but apparently I'm not 100% sure.
What do you mean?
Edath looked to the door, and then to Simon.
He resembles Boethius.
Simon narrowed his eyes.
He's nothing like that piece of crap.
I hope you're right, but there's something that doesn't click, and I didn't notice it at first.
Well, it's only normal. We just met him. We need to know him more before jumping into conclusions. He could be like this because of stress and fear and everything. Besides, there's plenty of stuff that doesn't click when it comes to me. But you still love me, right?
You wish.
She blushed and threw a deer's eye at his head, making him recoil with disgust.
But I think you're right.
About what? Loving me?
Simon smirked. Edath rolled her eyes.
No, you asshole. We have to make sure to get his friends back. I believe he'll feel better after we save them from those maniacs. He must feel frustrated thinking that we saved him, but we couldn't save his teammates right away. Well, it's hard when those fuckers have people locked in a cell.
Regarding this matter, don't you think there's something weird?
Simon stopped what he was doing to look at her.
Besides the fact you're talking to me on that tone, I don't know what you're referring to.
He seems extremely calm.
Edath tilted her head to the side and opened and closed her mouth several times before she actually began to speak.
Now that you mention it, he looked motivated to train with us and to learn a few things, but he seemed to be doing that as something to pass time and not to get stronger to rescue his friends. And more, He hasn't mentioned that many times, nor does he look that upset. It could still be his way of reacting to the situation, though.
Yeah, you might be right. Nonetheless, I hope they aren't dead already.
I hope they aren't. The more the merrier.
I was talking about Lael's sake, Edath. Don't forget, you need to think about other people too.
Yes, Dad.
She knew what he meant, though. Edath was so obsessed with their aim to take over that island. That she ended up thinking about people as useful tools or as stepping stones in her path. Simon used to remind Edath not to do that, as it was the same thing center people did.
Oh, please don't call me that. It makes me shiver.
Simon chuckled, finally putting meat on the grill. Edath looked at him with a mix of confusion and repugnance.
I'm not sure if you're disgusted or pleased, but please stop. You're giving me the creeps.
She ended up laughing and threw the other deer's eye towards Nale, which landed inside his mouth, making him jump from the bench, choking. Edath giggled while Nale was coughing.
I think I'm getting better at throwing weapons after all.